So, now that I'm done covering the Utapau episodes, it's time to get back to my top 11 favorite Clone Wars episodes before the Rebels premiere comes out, and I need to talk about that. But first, a bit of housekeeping. If anyone's wondering about Powerpuff Girls vlogs, I want to do them. I'm just really busy with other stuff, both schoolwork and lots of entertainment stuff. I will do them when I have time, just don't expect them at any time. I don't want to make any promises, but I will do them when I have time, so just be patient. I will do them. It's just going to be wild. And in regards to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. vlogs, I'm going to do, like, mid-season updates and stuff, because I really don't have much to say on the show. I mean, I do, it's just I don't think it's worth talking about, since, like, it barely gets any views. I'm not too into the show, and there's much better shows I can be talking about, like Clone Wars! So anyway, in case anyone's wondering what my number 5 episode is, I'm going to tell you. But first, let me just say this. Clone Wars, we all like to talk about how awesome Clone Wars is, and how great of a show is, and how sucky Rebels looks, and I haven't seen the pilot yet, if anyone's wondering, but I will vlog about that once I'm done with these. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, same. But we forget how dumb and stupid Clone Wars used to be. It used to be very goofy, very just straight up good versus evil. There were no really complex characters or villain-focused episodes, and the show was really never really dark or dramatic, or really never did anything to throw a wrench into the show. Until this arc came along. It was about halfway through season 3, I was getting sick and tired of dealing with such political arcs as the one where they're passing the bill for peace, the one about the blue people that's basically... It's the blue guy who George Lucas plays in Revenge of the Sith, and the episode was basically showing off George Lucas. And then we got halfway through season 3. And this is where the show got awesome. I am, of course, talking about the arc that introduced Savage Opress. Now, I mean, this was an awesome arc in general. I mean, first off, it was the first really dark episode of the Clone Wars, and the one that was a real game changer. I mean, right off the bat, we have Dooku betraying Asajj, trying to murder her, then she is now an outcast, and then she has to go to we get the introduction of the Night Sisters in Melvar Talzin, where major concept from Expanded Universe, both characters and location, in the Clone Wars. We get to see more of Maul's people. We get to see a villain-centric episode. And it's like fucking awesome! But here's the thing, I can only pick one episode per arc, and honestly, this is one of those cases where if I wanted, I could honestly just put every single episode from the arc on this list, but I don't want to do that because then I wouldn't give every episode its fun sun. But this whole arc is awesome. But I can only pick one, and so you're probably wondering which one it is, and it's the final one, and let me tell you why. It's not that the other ones are bad, in fact they're awesome. The first one, really, really great setup, really just one of those rare moments where I just wanted to know what was going to happen. Ended in a way where I wanted to know what was going to happen next. Monster, great episode, just showing how evil Asajj is. This is the first arc where I legitimately thought Asajj Ventress was badass. I mean, like, when she goes to recruit Savage and she just is going through just brutally massacring them. Like, I bought Ventress, but the reason why I went with the first episode, the final episode, is because that's where everything came together. I mean, like, you've introduced Savage, you've gotten Ventress out there, so it's like, it's building towards something, and this was that build-off. I mean, like, we had some amazing action. We had, like, the Toydarian King killed, like, which is the show basically saying, we don't have a problem killing characters off on this show, and Filoni even said at one point, George, he wanted to kill off a lot of the characters that weren't in Revenge of the Sith. So yeah, that shocked me. And then there was some awesome lightsaber fights. And just in general, by the end of this, like, so much has changed. Like, this is like the first time in the Clone Wars where they really shook things up. I mean, just think about how this episode ends. You have this giant monster screen named Savage Opress, who is literally a tank. He just Anakin and Obi-Wan are like flies to him. So he's out there in this threat. Also, Ventress is out there in a traitor, and Dooku knows that Ventress is alive. And then we have the reveal that Darth fucking Maul, is coming back. And then we also have the introduction of this really powerful character named Mother Talzin, who you're kind of wondering, what's her deal? What's her endgame? Because, like, she's a great villain. I mean, she always has backup plans, but it very much feels like every plan is this. If it fails, she has an even better backup plan that's building something big. And we're kind of wondering what that is. I mean, especially when she sends Anakin and Obi-Wan after Savage Opress, when she knows Ventress is going after them. You're kind of wondering what's that. And it turns out she was kind of doing that to basically get Savage to look for Maul. Like, everything's a step towards bringing back Maul, and you're like, what's the point of bringing back Maul? And you're kind of curious what her motive is, and if you read the Son of Dathomir comics, which I did blog about, and in case you're wondering, here they are, Son of Dathomir, you do get to learn her agenda, but which is really interesting. But at the end, when this arc ended, Clone Wars felt like a different show. Like, one thing I love about the Clone Wars is how it didn't just stay like a fun. Before this, it was just a fun Saturday morning cartoon. You had your fun adventures. Occasionally, something dark would happen, like someone would die, or they'd do a bit of smart writing, but for the most part, it was just fun. Villain of the week episode. Occasionally, you'd do something different, but for the most part, pretty simple, straightforward formula. Like, this is where the show really matured in the writing process. Like, it felt like a different show. It felt like a real show, a really interesting show, and I love the change of direction. Like, it got dark, it was mature, it was willing to really shake things up, and introduce all these original characters. And it's shame Rebels isn't going to get as dark as Clone Wars, because I feel like the dark stuff on Clone Wars was the best. I mean, Filoni even said Rebels isn't going to get as dark as Clone Wars because he wants it to appeal like little kids and make it feel like classic Star Wars. But we'll see how that goes. This arc was the first time when I really was hooked on this show. And, like, the first time, like, when the first episode of this arc ended, it was the first time I legitimately wanted to know what was going to happen. It wasn't like, oh, how are the Jedi going to defeat him? Or, oh, no, what's going to... Like, it was very predictable. This was the first time, like, ooh, what's going to happen? It's like when you're watching, like, it's like... I haven't watched Game of Thrones, but I'm reading the books, and it's like when I'm reading Game of Thrones, a chapter 1, I'm like, what's going to happen next? And that's, like, the first time I got that feeling on this show. And it was so fucking cool. And, like, and it wasn't, and the thing was, this arc introduced the idea of we're picking up stories again multiple seasons, and we're spreading stories out over seasons. And what I mean by that is, like, some shows, like, every episode will be, like, related to the main story. Some episodes will do, like, there's some filler, but there's a main story going forward. Clone Wars is unique in that it has, like, a couple episodes on this story, a couple episodes on this story, and the thing is, it'll, like, end, like, a chapter of that story, and then we'll pick it up again next season, and stories can crisscross and overlap. And as you go on, there's, like, certain characters and stories you grow fond of and you really want to see more of, and one story that's been consistently engaging and one I've consistently looked forward to on the Clone Wars is the story of Ventress, Talzin, Savage, and Maul. Like, consistently, like, every season. Like, Season 4, like, as much as I was enjoying Season 4, I was so anticipating the return of Maul and Ventress, and it did not disappoint. Same thing with Season 5. Like, literally, was so looking forward to that Maul arc. And even Season 6, like, I'm glad I got the story, but if the Clone Wars hadn't been canceled, my most anticipated thing about Season 6 would just be seeing what happened to Maul arcs, because the stories were consistently really good and really well written. And they always leave you wanting more, wanting to know what happened next, and be frustrated you have to wait, like, an entire till next season, which is months, to find out what happened next. And I think it's interesting to note that this arc was written by Katie Lucas, George Lucas' daughter. Well, I think she's adopted, but still. Let me repeat that. Now, I understand this is George Lucas' story, and I mean, I understand it's his idea, but at the end of the day, Katie Lucas is the one who fleshed out George's idea. So let's get this straight. Katie Lucas is a better writer than George Lucas. George Lucas's own daughter wrote a better Star Wars story than him. I think that's pretty cool. Although I feel like Katie Lucas wrote this story more for Ventress, because as much as this story was about Savage, a lot of it, especially at the first, a good chunk of this, like about half of this arc is just about Ventress. And even season 4, like the finale is very Ventress focused, which is probably why she didn't write the season 5 Maul arc. But I have no doubt she probably wrote the season 7 arc, which we're getting in a novel. But yeah. So, and also, like, the show introduced... Oh, wait, I already talked about Mother Taliesin. So anyway, so the show was at its best when it gave us original stories and original characters in a really dark, mature setting. And this arc was no exception. And I am really bummed that the show is canceled and we did not get to see the ultimate fates. While we did get some closure to Savage Opress and Mother Taliesin, Ventress's fate is still a mystery, although we're getting that in a novel. But Maul's fate is still a mystery, and I need to give kudos to this arc because it spawned one of the most engaging stories on this show, and one that I am so bummed that we aren't going to get to see. I mean, we're probably going to get the stories eventually, but we're not going to get to see them proper. But yeah, I had to put this arc episode on here because this is the staple of what the show will be. And if Rebels starts out dumb and goofy now, hopefully by season 3 it'll have this kind of episode, the one that just spikes the writing quality up really high. So yeah. Well, that's my episode. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about Witches of the Mist. Please join me next time when I talk about my number 4 choice, which is an episode that it's very fortunate we got to see. Like, we almost did not see this episode, but thankfully, things just happened to work out. And you can probably guess what the next one is, but if you can't, I'll be more than happy to reveal it in the next video. So until then, this is J Star Wars 360, and may the Force be with you.